Welcome back, guys. I hope you're having a fantastic day so far. In today's video, first and foremost, I need your help. I finally broke down and decided that it's time for me to get my very own betta fish. So I'm going to be setting up a tank for that fish, but there are so many different types of bettas out there, different color patterns, etc. I need some suggestions, so leave it down in the comments below what you think I should get, and I'll go through and eventually pick something. Before I get into the details of the tank setup, today's video is sponsored by Nano. Nano is a mobile app that lets you join and interact with tons of user-generated communities. You can even start your own if you want to. I'm a part of the Fish Keepers Nano, Fortnite, and Betta Keepers, which is the one that I'll show you more of today and invite you to join. Inside of Betta Keepers, there's a lot to do. People sharing posts of their fish, asking questions, offering up advice, and you can interact with all of it. Users can create polls, take and generate quizzes to test your knowledge, and more. You can click the bottom pop-up here and interact with all the current online users and even instant message people who are into and have betta fish. There's a lot more going on inside of the Nano platform, so I suggest you click the links below, download the app, and join the fun. After using the Nano app for a little while, I think it's pretty interesting. Pretty much anything that helps connect fish keepers is okay in my book. So check it out, add me, my username is down below, and I might see you there. Alright guys, so the first thing we got to do here is move the Nano tank. You guys remember this tank? It's got the chili rasboras and the dwarf catfish in it, the really tiny ones. They're hanging out down there at the bottom. We got to move them, we got to relocate them to the other side of the living room. I thought this would be a perfect place for this new fancy looking tank, which we'll take a look at here in just a second. Let's go ahead and drain this guy and set him up in a new part of the room. Here's the new home for the Nano tank right next to the couch. Pretty good viewing spot. When I moved it, we did disrupt the bridge here a little bit, so placed it back kind of in the same spot. We're gonna have to do some work on this tank. Clean it up a little bit, and maybe keep adding more Nano fish. I definitely want some more chili rasboras, but I might actually want some for a different tank. We'll leave that for another day. Here's the new tank, guys. Let me show you the box really quick because this tank is a little different. This is an Aqueon Ascent. This is the 6-gallon version. There's also a 10-gallon version, I believe. And if we look at the box here, you see there's something weird going on with the top. We have this kind of fancy top portion of the tank that slopes from back to front. So if I get even with it, you can see just how much slope there is. Not a lot, but it definitely stands out. Kind of fancy, kind of different, but that's, you know, what these companies have to do to be competitive, is keep making fancier and weirder tanks. So this top portion actually has LEDs built in, and I have those plugged in, obviously. I don't know if I'm gonna use this top piece just because the LEDs are, you know, super weak. I'm not gonna be growing anything crazy in here that requires a lot of highlight, but I'll probably just swap them out. But that top piece is kind of cool looking. It fits on nicely, and there's a little bit of room here for the cord. I don't hate it. Included, we also get this filter that is an internal, kind of weird, modified HOB-like thing that doesn't hang on the back, but rather suction cups inside of the tank. Let me just hold it in place here so you can see we got the cutout so you can easily access it, and then the water level will be right at where it sits. But you know me, we're probably not going to use this thing because it just takes up too much room, and we're also not going to be using this. I think instead we're just going to hang a Planted Plus clip LED above it so we have some good clearance. I think that's going to do just fine, and it still kind of fits the theme. Maybe if it was black it would look a little bit better, but it doesn't bug me. So here's the deal, guys. 6 gallons for one betta fish should be okay. I know a lot of people say that the minimum you should keep a betta in is 10 gallons, but honestly, as long as we don't cram this thing up with plants, which I do have a tendency to do, it should be fine. I do like the fact that there's a trend going around of people suggesting a 10-gallon minimum. It's always better to keep your fish in a bigger volume of water, even if it is a betta. As long as you have good filtration and the tank is set up properly, I'm pretty comfortable doing 5 gallons as a minimum. And so that's why we have the 6 here, and we're going to be setting that up and showing you how to do that today. For substrate, we're using some nice brown sand that has a little bit of mixed rock in it. I think this stuff will look pretty good in this tank. Let's start pouring that in. Another thing I wanted to highlight on this tank that I forgot to was this little riser down here that kind of props the tank up. I think that's pretty cool. I think that's gonna do it. Spread this out a little bit. Make sure I got all 4 corners covered. Not really worried about depth here. You'll also notice that I'm not putting any kind of nutrient layer in here because we're only gonna have one plant that is going to be in the substrate, and it's a really easy plant to grow, so no need to have any extras in here. The focal point in this tank is going to be this piece of driftwood. I want to have it positioned kind of in the center, maybe pushed a little bit towards the back, but I want to make sure there's room back there because I'll eventually plant back there. We're going to keep it really simple with the plants in this tank, guys. If we zoom over here to the 33, you can see I got a piece of this nice needle leaf Java fern. You don't see this very often. It's hard to get. I've had this piece growing for probably at least a year. Got it on eBay when I was really lucky, and I just had to hang on to it. So it's been sitting out in the 125 for a long time. It needs a little bit of love, and it might be too big for this tank, but let's drag it over here and find out. It's attached to this flat rock, which is great because you can just sit it kind of anywhere and it's in a great position, but I want to put it right in the middle of this driftwood. So I think we're gonna have to remove part of this, or I don't know, let's see. This is a pretty huge piece though, so I'm thinking I'm gonna need to break it up. It doesn't really fit any one particular way very well, and it does take up a ton of room. So let's see what we can do here. What I've done is trimmed off a bunch of the plant at the rhizome, and this is just sort of the excess that was hanging off of this main stone that the plant was attached to. And so now we have a much smaller plant that can sit in there, but it still looks really full. It is balancing in between the 2 pieces of the driftwood, but you can't really tell what's underneath there. The leaves kind of block it, and we might put some accessory plants down there to hide that even more. So I think that looks pretty good. There's still a lot of swimming room in there, and so let's move on to the next plant. Here's a handful of Liguilla Palustris from the pond outside. You guys might remember that from another video. You guys got a little sneak peek of that old pond. But these stems right here, I think I cut them at a decent length. You'll notice that they're kind of a yellowy pink right now. It's because they've been up out of the water and they've been getting a little bit of springtime sun time. As we put these in the tank, they're probably going to transform quite a bit, get some bigger, rounder leaves, and because this tank isn't going to have super high light, I don't know if they're going to stay this color, probably not, but at least right off the bat, they'll look good in the tank. So we just pop these stems back behind the piece of wood and Java fern, and hopefully we'll be able to see the tips of them when we stand back and check out the tank. I used that entire handful back there, spaced them out, just took 3 stems at a time and plugged them back into the substrate. There's a couple laying down there, but once we fill the tank up, they should pop all up, and then we'll get a better idea of how good of a job we did, I guess. So let's fill the tank up and check out how it looks. An essential part of any beta aquarium that totally gets overlooked is a heater. So here we have a 15-watt flat heater made by Aqueon. I'm gonna give it a try. I've never used these before, but it's supposed to be good for aquariums up to 10 gallons. So 6 gallons is our tank. We should be doing just fine with this, and it's super low profile, so we can slip that in the back or even on the side, and it's not going to distract from our aquascape. Here we go. The tank is filled, still waiting on the water to clear up. It's going to take pretty much overnight to get a little bit more clarity out of this, but you'll see that I added some floating plants up here, some Sylvinia. Those will quickly spread and divide and cover the top of this tank if I'm not actively pulling them out, but it's always nice to have a little bit of floating plants in your aquarium. So far the scape is really simple, just the 2 types of plants. The Liguilla, I think I did an okay job of planting. I like that when we stand back we see the main focal point being the Java fern, but then we have that accent of red behind there. I think that looks pretty good, but there is something else that I want to add to the aquarium, that being what I have in the bag right here. This is some Sirwasser tang that I got from my local fish store a few days ago, and it's been sitting in the bag, so it needs to get a new home. Let's pull this stuff out. Try not to spill any water. I think that's going to be good. Put that in there. This stuff kind of looks like moss, but it's actually a type of plant. And I'm thinking that it might look good sort of dressed around the base of the driftwood. I'm just gonna use this really small amount, and I sort of use it to plug up the hole that we could see through all the way to the back. I think that kind of rounds it out and makes it look a little bit better. But we definitely need this water to clear up before the tank can really look that good. So the last thing that I wanna add maybe is some Marimo moss balls. Let's just grab them. They're a common thing that people keep in beta tanks and are sold alongside betas all the time. So let's grab these big ones I have over here and see what they look like. This might kind of make things look weird, I don't know. They're a little distracting, but I think for now we're just gonna leave them in until we really finalize things. If we look at this tank from a purely beta fish perspective, let's see if we check off all of the bare minimum requirements. We have a decent sized aquarium of 6 gallons, so not the best, but we could also be doing a lot worse. We have a good plant load in here, but we also have a good amount of swimming room all around the sort of main focal point of the plant area. There's nothing really sharp in the tank for a beta fish to injure their fins on. There's also a lot of areas within the plants that the beta fish can rest on and take a break from their stressful day. We have a heater, and we also have filtration. I guess that's the last thing that I haven't really talked about. This is an Azu, I believe it's a 150 hang-on back filter. It's cheap, it's effective, and it doesn't create a ton of water movement in this tank. Beta fish don't like a lot of water movement, and so this is just kind of creating a little trickle back here, but most of it lands on the plants and is stopped. So we end up still getting water circulation, but not a fast current that the fish wouldn't appreciate. The only thing that we're not doing a good job of is having a lid on this aquarium. Beta fish can jump, and you'll notice that this tank is very, very full. So if we want to prevent that, which obviously we don't want to have our fish jumping out, is we need some sort of lid. Now, the lid that the tank came with the light would be great because it still fits on top here. The only problem is that our light is blocked out by this black part right here. Okay, now we still have a lit aquarium because the lights are on. If we turn the lights off, this is what we get. Now that looks bright because my camera's making it bright, but as you can tell, the light is shining directly on that and it's not lit very well at all. We'll turn this off and we'll turn these on. I don't like the light spectrum on that, guys. I'm not gonna lie, I don't think the tank looks good at all. So we're gonna have to decide what we're gonna do here. But that's pretty much it, guys. That's the beta tank that we have set up for now. I'll be sure to let you guys know what changes I make to it when we get to that follow-up video where we actually get our fish. Don't forget to let me know what kind of fish you wanna see me get for this tank down in the comments below. Anyway, I think that's gonna do it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe. If you're new, hit the notification bell. Check the description for links to all of this stuff if you wanna get your hands on some decent equipment for a new beta tank. And also, don't forget to check out the Amino app that we talked about at the beginning of the video. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you next time.